Imagine this. Blue lights in your mirror, your heart rate ticks up just a little, and you slowly pull over to the side of the road. You stop the car, roll down your window, and then it happens. The officer leans in and asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" It sounds polite, even harmless, but this is exactly the moment where most people make a mistake without even realizing it. One sentence, and you've already talked yourself into trouble. What many people don't realize is that these kinds of conversations aren't just casual interactions. They're strategic. Every question being asked has a purpose, and no matter how friendly it sounds, in that moment, you are part of an investigation. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this works, and more importantly, how you can protect yourself with simple, respectful responses that keep you out of trouble. Stay with me, because this isn't just about rules. This is about control, confidence, and knowing what to do when it really matters. Let's start with a reality that almost no one tells you. A traffic stop is not a casual chat. It's not just a quick conversation on the side of the road. From the moment you're pulled over, the officer is trained to gather information. Everything you say helps them build a picture. Not just what you say, but how you say it. Silence can protect you. Words can expose you. Officers are trained in communication techniques. They know how to ask questions that make you feel comfortable, while they quietly collect information that can be used against you. Their goal is simple: get confirmation of a violation or gain permission to take the next step. And that brings us to the first and most common trap. You've heard it before. Do you know why I pulled you over? At first, it seems like a simple question. You might even think being honest is the best move. A lot of people respond automatically with something like, "Was I speeding?" or "Did I do something wrong?" But without realizing it, you may have just admitted something. This type of question is often used to see if you'll confess on your own. It's like the officer is inviting you to do their job for them. Maybe they only noticed something minor, like a broken taillight. But if you start guessing and mention speeding, you've just given them much more than they had. And that's exactly why this question is so powerful. The correct response is surprisingly simple: short, respectful, and non-committal. You just say, "No, officer." Nothing more, nothing less, no explanations, no guessing, no trying to be helpful by listing possible mistakes. By doing this, you place the responsibility back on the officer. They need to tell you why you were stopped, not the other way around, and that's exactly where you want to be. In some places, officers are required to state the reason for the stop. In others, they may not have to do it immediately. Either way, what matters is that you don't put yourself in a position where you admit to something that was never proven. Stay calm, stay polite, but be mindful of your words. Now let's move to the second trap, and this one is even more deceptive. The officer looks around and says, "You don't have anything illegal in the car, do you? Mind if I take a quick look?" It sounds casual, almost like a routine question. It can even feel like saying no would make you look suspicious, and that's exactly the point. This question is designed to make you feel uncomfortable about refusing. Many people respond with, "Sure," or "Go ahead," sometimes even with a nervous laugh. But what they don't realize is that at that moment, they're giving up an important right. Consent changes everything. If the officer already had legal grounds to search your vehicle, they wouldn't need to ask. The fact that they're asking means your answer matters. And this is where you need to be clear. No vague responses, no gestures that could be misunderstood, no hesitation. You calmly and respectfully say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That's it. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to explain why. You don't need to argue. You simply state your position. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is temporary. Consequences are not. Now, let's talk about the third trap, arguably the most subtle one. The officer asks, "Where are you coming from? Where are you headed?" It sounds like harmless small talk. You might think, what's the big deal in answering that? But again, there's a purpose behind it. These questions are used to build a narrative, to check for inconsistencies, to observe your behavior. Even small differences in your answers can later be used to justify more suspicion. And sometimes, it's not even about inconsistency, it's about location. Saying you're coming from a problem area could raise additional flags. The conversation feels casual, but it's calculated. So, what should you do? You're not required to discuss your travel plans. Instead, you bring the focus back to the stop itself. You can politely ask, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go?" With that one sentence, you shift the dynamic. You show that you understand what's happening, that you know your rights, that you're not going to casually drift into a conversation that could lead somewhere else. And the best part, you remain respectful, because that's the key in everything we're talking about. Respect and awareness can go hand in hand. You don't have to be rude to stand your ground. You don't have to be defensive to protect yourself. In fact, calmness and clarity are your strongest tools in situations like this. Let's quickly bring it all together so it sticks. If you're asked why you were pulled over, you respond, "No, officer." If you're asked for permission to search your vehicle, you say, "I do not consent to any searches." If the conversation shifts to personal questions about where you're coming from or going, you redirect with, "Am I being detained or am I free to go?" 3 simple sentences, but they can make a huge difference. What you also need to understand is this. Most problems don't come from what happened. They come from what was said. People talk out of nervousness, out of politeness, out of the instinct to cooperate. And ironically, that's what can create more problems. It's human, but it's not always wise. There's nothing wrong with being polite. In fact, you should always be respectful. But being polite doesn't mean saying everything. It doesn't mean giving up your rights. It simply means treating the situation with respect while protecting yourself. And that's an important distinction. Think about this. If you already know what you're going to say before you ever find yourself in this situation, everything changes. You feel calmer, more confident. You're not reacting, you're responding with intention. Preparation is power, because in the moment, you don't have time to think everything through. You fall back on what you already know, and that's why this knowledge matters so much. You might be thinking, if I've done nothing wrong, I have nothing to worry about. That sounds logical. But in reality, misunderstandings happen, interpretations vary, and small details can turn into bigger issues. This isn't about doing something wrong. It's about preventing something from being misunderstood. And these simple responses help you do exactly that. They keep the interaction clear, controlled, focused. They protect you without escalating the situation. And in the end, everything comes down to one simple rule. Be polite, but be careful with your words. You don't need to give long explanations. You don't need to tell stories. The less you say, the less there is to misinterpret. That's not a trick. That's just smart. So the next time you see those flashing lights, remember this moment. Take a breath, stay calm, and rely on simple, clear responses. That's how you stay in control, even when the situation feels tense. And if this helped you understand things better, make sure to save or share it with someone who might need it too. You never know when this information could make a difference. Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. I read them, and I do my best to respond because these conversations matter. And most importantly, remember this principle you can carry with you anywhere. Stay respectful, stay calm, but always protect yourself.